Hey, puppy trades! Merry Christmas. I think I've had a Christmas miracle. I spent all night last night watching The World and their commentary on this movie that came out, Leave the World Behind, produced by the Obamas. Very interesting stuff about this movie. Apparently, the rights to this book to be made a movie were bought along like in 2020 or 2021, before the book was even kind of popular, maybe even before it was made. Anyway, a lot of people are asking some interesting questions. There's a clear, strong. I want to make a lot of videos about this, to be honest. I want to make a lot of videos about this because there's a lot of topics, but there's a strong racial component in this. There's a lot of components in this movie. Obama is trying to send us a message, and you know what's great? A lot of people, I mean, this is just a very small sample, and I'm not expressing anyone's opinions at all, but a lot of people have a lot to say about this, and it's very intriguing. I've been watching Leave the World Behind analysis all night. And these are just the titles of some of these. It's predictive programming. This is just me searching it. Does Obama's Netflix movie warn of an impending cyber attack? Wait a minute. This is a video with 710,000 views that is saying basically we've been given instructions by a former president, not the current president, that a pretty serious thing's coming. Let's look at this one. And again, that just seems what is appearing to be ascertained, right? I'm gonna give plenty of my opinions in this video. I'm just reading some of these. That these hidden commands are placed in movies to enslave you. That's the title of this. Leave the World Behind review. I can't wait to watch that one. I definitely will. But this one down here, I watched this movie. I wasn't sure about this title. I'm gonna watch this video, see what they say, right? But it says Netflix is getting slammed for anti-white racism in new Obama-produced movie. I watched this movie, and this may be true. Netflix probably gets slammed all the time, and you know, I'm sure Netflix is probably getting slammed. But when I watched the movie, I didn't see anti-white race. A lot of people have an interesting opinion about this movie and the racial component, so I'm gonna give mine. And I'm not a historian by any means, but one of the things that is talked about on this channel is programming and making predictions based on things that shouldn't be able to be made predictions based on. Things outside of statistics, right? And so sometimes another, aspect of this film that kind of gets somehow intertwined, like this character. We all know this character, right? He's talking about the curve. He's seeing stuff in markets, right? He's seeing stuff in markets. I want to make a lot of videos about this, about just what this character's saying. This character's speech, I'm going to make a lot of videos about what he had to say about markets and the curve. I know what he's talking about. But there's another interesting character, the white male character, Ethan Hawke's character. He's a media studies professor. And this person's daughter asked him, he says, I've heard a lot of people who study media studies, but I've never known what it meant. We're going to talk about what media studies and, the racial kind of element of this video, why it might not have been anti-white, and why I actually think Obama sent a pretty anti-black message about what he wants to happen during the apocalypse. Let's just get into it. Did Obama program subliminally young white men to chase the honeys during the apocalypse? Yes, we're going to go there. Did he program black men to settle for older, impotent Karens? Yes, we're going to go there. We are going to go there. Okay. Leave the milkman behind. Yeah, I didn't make this up. You guys, some people just, a lot of people just went quiet right now. A lot of people just went quiet. Oh, you didn't think I knew about this. Leave the milkman behind. Where'd this phenomenon come from? Where'd this phenomenon? I ain't got no problem with this. I ain't got no problem with none of this. But the milkman, is that a new term? I feel like that's a new 2020. Maybe it's not. But, milkman became a very common thing on the internet. The milkman. This is just me Googling the Twitter X milkman. You guys know what it means. And what's this lady up here? She starts when the apocalypse happens. We're gonna talk about what happens. There's a little change in the male character's preferences that Obama programs in this movie as soon as the apocalypse happens. We're gonna talk about a change that happens in this movie as the apocalypse progresses, as it becomes more and more clear that this is not just a power outage, that this is an apocalypse. This is a nationwide thing, a very serious Armageddon situation. We see a gradual change in how subliminally, and even not so subliminally, the male preferences kind of change. And unfortunately for the black male, Obama seems to really want to program that they're going to end up with the impotent older Karens. Well, that may not be a good idea. Why is that? Well, because if we look at all statistics, basically, the African American countries sorry, that was awful. Sorry, no, that was pretty Americanized to me. The black countries in Africa, the African countries, have the highest fertility rate by far. By far. And the next group of countries are Latin American countries. And this is very kind of statistically across the board. Let's read some of these. Niger, Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, Benin, Chad, Uganda, Somalia, South Sudan, Burundi, Guinea, Mozambique, Liberia. The list goes on. See a pattern? The more fertile countries are in Africa. And we can see that on a map. The less fertile countries are whiter, older Karens. And we recently, there's this kind of radiation connection. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a group of people who wear tinfoil hats who think a lot of this jab stuff is actually connected to, some of those towers you see out there, some of those cellular towers you see. I don't know where they got that from, right? But a lot of, this movie has a white male character, his teeth start falling out. A lot of people think it's because of radiation. So let's look at what those jab people had to say. Remember? They said this had something to do with what? Radiation? The jabs? Well, when the pandemic happened, and even before it happened, the African countries were by far the most fertile anyway. They were by far the most fertile anyway. And when, 2020, 21, those rollouts started happening, Mr. Bill Gates, right? He said in 2013, if we did a good job with jabs, we could get the population down and, help stop global warming, right? If we did a good job with jabs. Well, noticeably, a lot less African countries got the jabs. A lot less, Central American countries and Latin American countries got the jabs. But all the white countries, especially the ones with liberal women, older liberal women, they all got the jabs. And all the doctors were like, hey, man, when a woman comes up to me and they tell me they don't want to ever have a child again, there's an ingredient in this that I give to them. Right? So what's kind of going on here? Let's just kind of recap this movie. Before the apocalypse happens, everything's kind of normal in terms of this, and I really want to maybe step back and let's focus on this from the perspective of young men in college, maybe college-age males, adult college-age males who are watching this video. Let's focus on this video subliminally from this man's perspective. This young, you know, let's say he's let's watch this movie from a 21-year-old white male's perspective and also maybe a 21-year-old black male's perspective. They're watching this movie together in college. And a former president, Barack Obama, has produced a movie, and we're going to talk about the subliminal racial preferences in these men's dating that seems to emerge as the apocalypse becomes more apparent. Okay? So, this conversation's a good example to start. It's kind of getting, we don't quite know. We don't quite know that the apocalypse is here yet. I don't think. And I'm not quite sure where we are in this point, and them all figuring out. I think they're still trying to pretend everything's cool, right? But she asked him, things start to get weird, right? Things start to get a little weird. She asked him kind of what media studies is. What is media studies? I don't really know. And they never really answer that. But what media studies is what we're going to talk about in this kind of video. These kind of subliminal directions. Or what did this guy say? Hidden commands. Maybe that's what media studies are. Because she's asking, what are media studies? Well, part of media studies would be that once kind of apocalyptic events start happening, all of a sudden, the older white woman starts to cozy up to the black man. And whether the white man is old or not, he starts to cozy up to the younger black woman. And this becomes extremely apparent in a rather gross scene that we can keep getting into, okay? But before this apocalyptic event happens, the very first scene that kind of starts this is the White Lion. This ship crashing into the shore. It's a very, out of the ordinary event. And, it's really the last time that we see anyone in this movie, with very few exceptions, besides the core family. Everyone seems to have disappeared or be gone. We don't really see anyone. And this is the first moment where we get a true apocalyptic event. And before this, there's a very distinct scene. And I didn't take the time to go watch Netflix and screenshot it. But there's a very distinct scene before this happens. When the family gets to the beach, and you can go watch the movie and you can know exactly what I'm talking about. When the family gets to this beach, he very clearly is seen looking at two white women and staring them down. He stares them down and they're in red bikinis. You can go watch this movie and you can know what I'm talking about. When he gets to this beach, before the apocalyptic event, he stares down two white women and kind of has the hots for him, right? The male gaze. And they're in red bikinis. Now, as the apocalypse starts to progress, he's subliminally being conditioned. Hey, you might start liking other types of women right now. So remember, we're watching this from the perspective of two college-age male adults. They're watching this together maybe in January, February, and they're wondering if Obama is telling them predictive programming about the future. Is Obama telling us predictive programming about the future? That's what they're going to be wondering, right? Young black men, young white men watching this video are going to be asking themselves, what is a former president programming and predictively programming me and commanding me to do? What's he trying to tell me about the apocalypse? And all this stuff about how Obama was tweaking the script and saying, hey, you're just kind of off. You can make it a little more realistic. You're just kind of off. And the script writer was like, what? I thought I was really off. So we're watching this in subliminally from a media studies perspective. As the apocalyptic events start to unfold, he starts to become more grossly and blatantly, this is not a subliminal thing at all. There's a scene where he films this woman and he starts, getting into her, right? Now, There's more. It's not just like, oh, this one time. No, this is a very prevalent thing throughout the movie. We can go all the way back to this scene. There's a very kind of, once the apocalypse really starts happening, now these two are in love. She even has a weird thing. She says, I'm starting to warm up to you. Why are you starting to warm up to him right when the apocalypse is starting? Is Obama subliminally saying that this is kind of what he wants to play out if the apocalypse happens? Let's keep looking at this. We'll see. You think I'm reaching here? There's a big, this is your house theme. This scene, we see a family, looks like they have dark skin in this picture. And this is their daughter trespassing into their house and eating it. Eating food from their fridge, trespassing into their house and eating. And we can clearly see, looks like the people who own this house are African American, black. Right here. Another time we see that this man is going to sacrifice his life for this white family who really didn't give a damn about him. She hates people. He is aloof. He's screaming, I'm worthless, and his son's an ass. And this guy is really the only morally upstanding character in the film. He's really going to take a bullet and die for this dude. And when he's not really willing to take a bullet and die for this dude, he's thinking about hooking up with a woman who, mid-50s, liberal woman, probably took all her jabs. That woman's not popping out a baby during the apocalypse. But this older man, now he's starting to be seen warming up to her, too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're an older white man. It doesn't matter if you're a younger white man. If apocalyptic events start happening, this is who, one group is supposed to go after. This is who the other group, Obama wants to go after. Hey, I'm starting to be infertile. I'm starting to like you. Become a milkman. Racial programming. Before any of this happens, before the first apocalyptic event, the young man is seen gazing at two white women in red bikinis. Once the apocalyptic events start unfolding and becoming more clear, he starts to becoming more attracted and subliminally, or not so subliminally, wanting to be, with the fertile black woman. Is this your house? Doesn't matter. Doesn't seem to matter. We're constantly reminded it's their house. Let's look at this. They even put a QR code. They talk about this a lot. This little map they had of all the cyberattacks, they put a QR code there. Not so subliminal. This QR code was a link to the Lake Shawnee Abandoned Amusement Park in Mercer County, West Virginia. Per the website's description, there's something unnatural about the attraction's location, which is billed as one of the most haunted places, a Native American burial ground. So they put in a picture of a Native American burial ground. They say constantly throughout this video, this is not the white man's house. This is not the white man's house, but it doesn't matter. His little white daughter can go into their house and eat their food. Black man's going to take a bullet for him. White man's going to, do all types of, both of them are going to try to get with the daughter. And, we're going to be subliminally reminded. This is all built on top of the backs of black and brown people. We are going to have this is media studies, a QR code. A QR code to a Indian burial ground is just placed in this movie. This is media studies. 1619 M Hertz. When was the last time you went on the radio, you turned it to M Hertz? Yeah, y'all are going to tell me that, right? Oh, Pop, I'm always on M Hertz. Really? I'll personally say I've never been on M Hertz radio frequency. No AM, no FM. I go on AM and FM. M Hertz frequencies. 1619. Think that was a random number? Think Obama just picked that number out of his bum? Like how all the clocks had 6, 6, and 6 in the very first scene? 1619. That was just a random year, right, pup? Nope. That was the year that the first enslaved Africans arrived in Jamestown, setting the stage for slavery in North America. Now, I am not a historian by any means, but a lot of, the White Lion was also the name of a Dutch ship, a chartered Dutch ship that was carrying slaves. So why are white men being programmed by Obama that when apocalyptic events start happening, they need to tune into the White Lion 1619 frequency? They need to tune into the Jamestown frequency. They need to tune into the QR code that links them to the fact that we don't give a damn, this is all built on top of Native American backs anyway frequency. This is a white man driving a car, and he is in the apocalypse, and he is tuning to frequency 1619 to save his life. This is what media studies is. Let's look at this scene. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I don't think this was irrelevant. So after this scene, you probably know what happens. This Hispanic woman is abandoned. And she only speaks Spanish. But many people have translated this, and they've said this Hispanic woman knew every single thing that was happening. She knew about the chemicals. She knew everything. Everything that she was like, what's going on? And she had these guesses, and what she saw, perfect. Nailed everything. And he strongly regrets not picking her up. Not taking her back. I don't think that's an accident. I think the fact that this is a Hispanic woman who speaks, I don't think that's an accident. And that this middle-aged white man in this movie, when the apocalypse happens and he's tuning into channel 1619, he strongly regrets leaving the Hispanic woman behind. What's going on here? These countries are much more fertile. And when the apocalyptic events start to appear, Obama has programmed young white men and old white men to go after fertile African American women. Tune in to channel 1619 frequency and subliminally be reminded we don't really care that this was on the back of a Native American burial ground anyway. This whole country's a giant Native American burial ground. 1619, Jamestown, the first Thanksgiving. We're being reminded of this. Tune in to channel 1619, and while you are, you're going to regret not taking that Hispanic woman with you. These are put in here. This man's daughter is just in this person's house eating food. Doesn't seem to ever be a moral consequence to that. The black man takes a bullet. Is going to take a bullet for this white guy's asshole son. And he's gonna start hooking up with, in the apocalypse, when they're the last people on Earth, Obama wants the black man to be programmed to hook up with the infertile Karen, and the white man, whether he's young or old, to start hooking up with the son, to start hooking up with the daughter that's black, infertile. And guess what? When young black and white men are watching this video, they are already looking for signs Obama is programming them and warning them about the future. So they're going to be looking for signs this is happening and clues about what to do. Every single video is, what is Obama telling us? This is what he's trying to tell you. This is what he wants you to do. This is what Obama is trying to tell you. When you see apocalyptic events, he is using media studies, mind control, to subliminally program the white men to go after the fertile black woman. Tune into the channel 1619 frequency and don't give a damn that we're on a burial ground. You're going to regret not taking that Hispanic woman with you. This is what subliminal media studies is. This is why this is put in the movie. Why? Because they're looking for signs. Obama's giving them a message. Obama's giving them a program. And guess what? Within 2 weeks, they got plenty of evidence This is happening. Zombie deer disease. Now an official story. Zombie deer disease. Like how this movie was all about how deer act crazy. This symptom of zombie deer disease is exactly what they're doing in the movie. Cyberattacks on the infrastructure mentioned verbatim in the movie. A week and a half or so later, it became official. China was attacking our infrastructure with cyber attacks. So what's going on here? Young white men and young black men that are college age, adult males, they're looking for signs Obama's trying to give them a message about what to do when the apocalypse happens. And we see these very telltale signs of the apocalypse happening. He wants, subliminally, their racial dating preferences to change. And so then these young people are going to start seeing these actual events play out in front of them. And they've subliminally already been told what to do. You may have been a milkman if you were a young white man before the apocalypse. But once you see these apocalyptic events happening, right? What's going on in the Middle East? All this crazy stuff with ships. You know, ships can be hacked. Planes can be hacked. That can, cyber attacks, right? That can all happen. And there's a huge conflict in the Red Sea right now. So when you see some crazy stuff happening with ships, right? When you see these signs that the apocalypse is happening, you see zombie deer disease. You see infrastructure attacks. You see crazy stuff happening with ships. If you were a milkman before that and you were a young white man, the former president has given you as his former commander-in-chief. You need to go after the fertile, darker-skinned honeys. That's what he wants. That people want to know, what's Obama trying to tell us? This is what Obama's trying to tell you. He wants the black men, if apocalyptic events, when they see them, which they are, start playing out, become a milkman. Go after the 50-year-old Karen, who's a liberal woman in the Northeast who got all her jabs, who's not going to pop out a baby ever. Start becoming a milkman right when she's getting infertile during the apocalypse, when you're the last people alive. Impotent white men will strongly regret leaving fertile Hispanic women with worldly perspectives. And, black men will take a bullet for this impotent man screaming, "I'm useless," his asshole son. And both of them are trying to smash his daughter. Also, he can get with maybe 55-year-old Becky, Karen, and not have a baby as the last black man, presumably on Earth, in this movie. We don't know. So you guys are asking, what's Obama want you to know? He's telling you, hey man, if the apocalypse happens, yeah, you already took their house. You're already doing this on top of a Native American burial ground. This is all possible, and you celebrate this every Thanksgiving with 1619. You already took the house, man. Apocalypse events start happening. Zombie deer disease. China cyber attacks on our infrastructure. Just tune in to channel 1619. Start looking at the honeys.